Welcome. Today, we're going to dive into a name you probably heard before and, let's be honest, probably not in a good way. Machiavelli. But there is so much more to his ideas than that bad reputation suggests. We're going to explore how his thinking from way back in the 16th century can actually be a super practical guide for being more effective in the world today.
Just think about it for a second. When you hear that word, what's the first image that pops into your head? For most of us, it's probably some kind of sneaky, backstabbing character who'll do anything to get what they want. It's a pretty heavy label, and it's almost never a compliment.
But what if that's just one side of the coin? To really get it, we're going to walk through the whole thing step by step. First, we'll hit the core idea, seeing reality for what it is. Then, we'll look at how Machiavelli totally redefined the word virtue. After that, we'll break down a practical toolkit you can use, and then we'll wrap up with some final thoughts on how to use all this wisely.
Okay, let's start with the absolute foundation of this whole mindset. Before you can do anything effectively, you have to see the world as it really is. For Machiavelli, this was square one.
So, Machiavelli drew a really sharp line in the sand. On one side, you've got the world as we wish it was, the idealistic version, where everybody plays fair and does the right thing. But on the other side, you've got the world as it actually is. He called this the effectual truth. And his point was simple. If you only focus on the ideal, you're going to get crushed because you'll be surrounded by people who are playing a different game. It's kind of like playing chess. It doesn't matter how perfect your strategy is in your head if you're ignoring the real moves your opponent is making right there on the board.
So, once you commit to seeing things as they are, the next piece of the puzzle is to rethink a really important word, virtue. For Machiavelli, this word meant something completely different than it does for us today. It's way less about being good and way more about being capable.
You know, when we say virtue, we usually think of being a good person, kind, honest, all that stuff. But Machiavelli used a special term, virtue. And virtue has nothing to do with being morally good. It's about being good at what you do. It's the skill, the drive, the flexibility to hit your goals and handle whatever life throws at you. Someone with virtue knows when to be kind, but also knows when they have to make a tough call. The focus is always on what works.
Okay, I know this can sound a little abstract, so let's bring it down to earth with a real-world example to see how seeing the effectual truth and having virtù actually play out.
Let's meet Alex. Alex is a new project manager, and they really want to be seen as a good, fair boss that everyone likes. But here's the problem. One of the team members, Bob, who's super popular and friendly, is constantly missing his deadlines. And it's not a small thing. It's putting the entire project at risk.
So Alex is at a crossroads. The path on the left is the ought-to-be approach. That's where Alex avoids a tough conversation, just kind of hopes Bob will magically start improving, and really just wants to be liked. But the Machiavellian approach on the right is different. Alex sees the reality here. Bob's performance is going to sink the ship. So Alex decides to aim for respect based on competence, not popularity, and acts decisively to fix the problem. And the result of that choice is huge. By taking that decisive action, pulling Bob aside, professionally and privately talking about the issue, Alex gets the whole project back on solid ground. Sure, it was a difficult conversation to have, but in the end, Alex earns the team's real respect. Not because Alex was a tyrant, but because they were a competent leader who made a hard decision for the good of everyone.
So how can you start putting these ideas to work? Let's boil this down into a simple, practical toolkit that you can actually use in your everyday life.
The first couple of tools are all about building your foundation. First up, build your own army. What this really means is that your number one asset is you. Don't count on other people or luck. Invest in your own skills, your own knowledge. Make yourself indispensable. And step two, manage perceptions. It's not enough just to be good at what you do. You have to look good at what you do. You've got to communicate your wins and carry yourself with confidence.
All right, next, you've got to stay on your toes. Step 3 is adapt or perish. The world is always changing. The thing that worked perfectly yesterday might be a total failure tomorrow. You have to be flexible, like water. And number 4, know when to be decisive. When you see a tough decision that needs to be made, make it. Don't drag it out. Pulling off the Band-Aid quickly usually hurts a lot less than peeling it off slowly.
And finally, 2 really important rules for dealing with people. Step 5, go for respect over popularity.
Being liked is fleeting, but being respected because you're competent and reliable, that's a rock-solid foundation. And step 6 is maybe the most important of all. Never create hatred. You can make hard choices without making lifelong enemies. Don't ever humiliate someone, don't steal their credit, and always, always respect their dignity, even when you disagree.
Okay, as we bring this to a close, it's really important we put all of this in the right frame. Understanding these ideas is one thing, but how you choose to use them is everything. There's this fantastic analogy that fits perfectly here. You study a virus not because you want to become a virus, but so you can understand how it works and how to protect yourself from it. It's the same idea here. Learning about this stuff isn't a license to go out and be a manipulative person. It's about understanding the dynamics of power and human nature so you can play the game effectively and protect yourself.
So here's the bottom line. The Machiavellian mindset isn't about becoming a cynic who thinks the worst of everyone. It's about becoming a realist. It's about giving yourself the power that comes from seeing things clearly, which helps you be more strategic, protect your own goals, and ultimately get things done.
And that brings us to a final question for you to chew on. Is looking at the world with this much clarity cynical? Or is it simply what it takes to be truly effective? That's something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.